Hi, welcome back to the Montego Bay T25 T3 TDI conversion. Guess this is part one really. So yesterday I had a bit of free time, so I tidied up around the back of the van, dug the engine out, took the sump off and put the JX sump on and a couple other little bits. Didn't really think it was worth filming because it's pretty standard, but there was a couple little snagging points I'll point out here. But at the minute, I've got the bell housing 50-degree adapter on the engine. So what I want to do today is put the gearbox on and try and put the engine and gearbox in the van. So what I just forgot to mention was I ground off the engine mounts off the diesel bars in the van yesterday, which is again not really worth filming. Didn't take that long. So if I can get the gearbox onto the block, get those under the van, so I've got to jack the van up, I can then tack those in position. So then I know the engine fits in, or where it fits in. Pull it back out. I've then got to do gear linkage, intercooler, throttle, alternator, exhaust, turbo, and everything else, I guess. But I just thought it would be fun to see it in the under the hatch. So I'll show you what I've got so far anyway. Through driveway. The engine on my useful stand. It's quite nice. I can raise and lower it just for better body position working on it. And there's a gearbox sitting on the rest of the server rack, which is quite handy just to wheel it about. So you've got one engine mount in. I thought it nearly bit me. Not a big one. It didn't take me long to figure it out, but the sump on the Passat is got a thicker lip. So I wanted to use the original bolts that came with the engine, but they were too long and it's like a tiny amount, so it wasn't actually sealing. So I had to use the original bolts from the JX. Also, you got to take the flywheel off to get to the two by the rear main seal, which is just a bit of a pain, but I should have really seen that coming, to be honest with you. Things I did get a bit excited about was putting a dipstick in. It fits beautifully. It just bolted straight in there with a bolt from I think the power steering or the aircon. I tend to hang on to those. And I think just for a laugh I actually put the plastic cover on when it was sat here, and I got quite excited. Don't really like engine plastic covers, but when it's somewhere it doesn't belong, it's quite cool. So I haven't tried offering anything up yet, but that's the plate in. I just had to put these, which came in part of the kit. It just holds it nicely. I was a bit worried that I'm trying to juggle three heavy things at once. It's just going to be a nightmare trying to get this gearbox on. But no, that was really handy. I think I've got to get a dowel as well, just to go into the gearbox, because I think it's been drilled out. And yeah, it's only a dry fit, so I'll probably do a time lapse. So let's get cracking. Alright, change of plan. Can't use my fancy jack. It's too tall to fit under. Between the floor and the bottom of the van. I can't remember how I got the engine out. Maybe the van was further out because I'm about an inch away from hitting the roof of my carport. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to try and use a little server rack based skateboard thing. I've taken quite a lot of metal out for another project, so I'll plonk the engine on it, see how it fares, and then what I've done back here, I'll show you. So, this is the gearbox mount, the rear gearbox mount. and it normally sits sort of to the left in these holes, but for some reason I'm not a T25 guru, but there's also another set of holes to the right, so I've just chased those out and I've put them in as per Tim's instructions. So I'll just explain whilst I'm lying down, I guess. I'll put the engine gearbox onto the little server room skateboard, slider under, jack the gearbox up, hook it on there, and then I'll probably use the engine hoist to lift it up so I can see how it fits, and maybe re-weld brackets onto these bars. So I have to put it back on time lapse, I guess. Alright, so to summarise, engine is in. Obviously we're nowhere near finished, but I'll just sort of run you through kind of how the day went. So jacking up the van, I never enjoy that. That's always brutal. I'm sure it's quite cringy watching as well. I had to use the big truck jack and lots of wood, and nearly hit the roof of the carport, but I think we just about slid it in with that server rack base. So there might be a better way to do that, possibly drag the van out from under the roof, or out from under the roof anyway, but no, it worked fine. Gearbox, that went up absolutely without no problem. It might help that the fact the engine was I was using a hoist, but no, that was fine. What I neglected to mention when the engine was on the stand, I'll call it stand anyway, the original JX engine mount, that bolts onto where the aircon pump normally is, on the AEN or on a TDI engine. So yeah, I think I even used the original bolts, or the bolts from the power steering. That was fine. I've only tacked in the engine mounts for now, so I've lowered it. I think I used an 1.5 inches or an inch drill bit eventually, just on the drill press. And yeah, I'm gonna make loads of excuses now. So the battery on my visor was flat, and I was running out of gas, so it's just tacked in. Yeah, that went absolutely fine actually. So it feels like, for a part 1 video, feels like a lot done, but we barely scratched the surface, I think. Yeah, I think next will be, I'll probably have to take the engine out again, because I need to spruce up this engine bay once I've got some more welding gas. Maybe drive shafts, see how those line up. I've got to do the alternator, and I've got to clock the turbo, so I've got to drop the manifold off, the exhaust manifold off, to get re-skimmed. So, progress soon, I guess. Right, thank you.